All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have a special delivery here from Infinite Discs. Mail call came a day early, so excited to get this Destiny out there to the field and give it a try. We'll open it up. And here we go. There's the Destiny. We got this one in at 171. So if you remember from the work we did in the previous video, we're going to test if TechDisc can pick the furthest flying disc for us. TechDisc ended up picking that the Westside Destiny would fly the furthest for me backhand. So in a second, we're going to take it out to the field. You also see here in this package, I ended up getting this Gorilla Performance Discs Chango. We're going to save that for a different video. All of you know that I'm a rock thrower, so we're going to give the Chango a run for my understable rock slot, which odds are it's not going to get it. But getting back to the Destiny here, we're going to put this up against my backhand lineup and another 14-speed driver just to see what it'll end up looking like and if it'll end up the furthest flying disc in my bag. So the discs that we're going to throw against the Destiny, the first thing I'll just throw out there is you're going to notice that all of these discs are extremely worn. These are discs out of my bag I throw quite often, so a lot of these are pretty beat up. But the first one is Neo Essence from Discmania. I know that this is a fairway and it seems weird to put this up against something like a 14-speed Destiny, but honestly the Essence is something that I throw all over the place. It's probably my main backhand driver at this point. If I want a little bit more distance, I'll reach for a Shrike. So have a Star Shrike here. I throw this. Very rarely is what I would say. So if I'm really trying to push something a little bit further out and I'm going to turn over the Essence because I'm throwing really hard, I would go with something like a Shrike. And then the last thing we're going to put it up against is a Corvette. So the Corvette is something I throw forehand only. I feel like I don't have the backhand speed for something like a 14 speed, but TechDisc says that I do. So we're going to throw that backhand as well, and we're going to see which one of these discs ends up flying the furthest. So let's head out to the field and see what we get. All right, let's get started here. We're going to see if the Destiny can end up replacing my furthest flying backhand. So we're going to get started here with the Essence, and we're going to go ahead and give that a throw. All right, looks like we got a nice turn out of that. We're going to get a full flight out of it, and that Essence went 352 feet. So switching over to the Shrike now, I should be able to get a little bit more out of this. I didn't get the turn on it that I want. We ended up with 320 feet there with the Shrike, so a little bit shorter. Now we're going to go over to the Corvette, and being a 14 speed, again, I don't generally throw this on backhand, but got a pretty good rip. Didn't get it to turn over there, 336 feet out of the Corvette. And here comes first throw with the Destiny. So we're going to see what this thing can do. Ooh, it came out of my hand really low, turned it over to the right, only went about 275. So for testing purposes, what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to end up making 10 throws with each one of these discs. We'll get all the distances put in, and then we'll figure out which one ended up going the furthest. I'm not going to make you sit around and watch every single one of the throws. I think what we'll end up doing is I'll play probably 3 throws from each disc, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch over and just show you the progression with the Destiny, and we'll see which one ends up flying the furthest. Maybe it's the Destiny, maybe I replace my longest flying driver. There you can see with both the last 2 throws, I ended up hyzering out and not really getting a good throw on them at all. Here's my second throw with the Destiny. I got a much better flight out of this one. Ended up going 342, so a pretty good rip. Didn't turn it over, so there's still more in it for sure. Back to the Essence. That's a fairly low drive. You're going to see that as a pretty big theme with my throws, both backhand and forehand. Playing here in Central Florida, thanks to Greg Hosfeld's course design, a lot of our courses have a low ceiling, so I like to keep drives fairly low. It does limit distance overall, but it should keep you more consistent. At least that's the thought process behind it. All right, here we go with a Corvette again. That one went off to the right. It's going to come back a bit, and we're going to get 320 out of that one. So here comes third throw with the Destiny. And there we go. That rose up nicely and hyzered out a little bit early. Only going to get 316 out of that one. So now we'll switch over. I'm just going to throw Destiny from here on out. So there's the fourth throw with the Destiny. Got it lower and had a good amount of speed on that one, 351 out of the fourth throw. One thing I really noticed with the Destiny, even though it is a 14-speed driver, it felt like it fit in my hand more like, I'd say, an 11-speed. There's something with the rim, and I'm not sure what it is. I was trying to look at it, and I don't have calipers or anything. It looks just as wide as the Corvette, but it ends up feeling more like an 11-speed, which I really enjoy and like. That allows me to get a good release on it without feeling like it's this big, giant driver. That's how I feel with the Boss and like a Corvette if I try and throw it backhand. Like the rim is just too big for me. All right, so that one's the first time I really tried to give it some height and flexed it out there. Ended up getting 375 out of that one, so now I'm giving it a lot more height, letting it get that anhyzer on it. Again, these are shots that I generally can't end up making on the course, so I don't throw them very often, but this is really trying to go after that distance. And I ended up doing that with all of the drivers. So that's the 10th throw there, and you'll see that, again, got a pretty good flight out of it. You know, that's a look at all of the shots that we threw. I think what you're going to end up seeing in the data is fairly surprising at the end of the day. I'm really shocked by it, and I'm excited to share it with you. All right, so here we go. Here's a look at the numbers that we end up having out of these flights, and what you'll see is the Essence was actually the first disc that I got to fly really nicely, and I got that 352-foot flight out of it. But after that, as I really started to dial in the Destiny, I think the Destiny really showed how good of a disc it can be. It did end up being my furthest flying disc. It's got the furthest flight at 375, and then the average actually ended up being right at 340 feet, which beat the average of the other three discs considerably. They were all in the 280 foot range. It's sort of scary to me that all three of those discs, so different, the Essence to the Corvette, all ended up right in the 280 range. As I got more tired from making all these throws, a lot of the Essence, Shrike, and Corvette ended up hyzering out for me. And for whatever reason, the Destiny did just seem a little bit more forgiving, and it did continue to give me better distances. It felt like it was less nose angle sensitive and way more forgiving than the other discs. So at the end of the day, it does look like the TechDisc was able to pick the furthest flying disc for me. We can illustrate that a little bit further. I put this all on a chart here, and I think it shows the picture a little bit better. I have the average line for the Destiny and for the Essence on here, and then the other points are on here as well for the Shrike and the Corvette. But I think it shows you through my throws. So this is the first throw here out to the 10th throw here. And what you'll see is that average line continues to go up as I make my throws, whereas the Essence, it kept going down. So as I got tired and I made more throws, the Destiny ended up staying cleaner and giving me more distance as I figured it out. So really cool that the TechDisc was able to pick that. I'm curious if it's able to pick different discs for different people and what your results would be. If you try it, post up in the comments, let me know what was your furthest flying disc according to TechDisc, and if you try it out, does it actually work? Thanks for watching, really appreciate it.